Hey everybody, it's Caleb Crew here with Caleb Crew Reports and Predicts. It's been a while since I put out a video, so it's just been a really long summer, but I'm going to be putting out several the next few days. So today we're going to go over the 2020 presidential election. Um, and so we're going to start out with a primary poll here from New Hampshire, and we're going to start out with the Republican primary. It's, it's not really an important poll because President Trump has a really high approval rating within the Republican Party and the base, and it's going to win. But this is a New Hampshire poll, and it shows Trump at 88%, Weld at 3, and Walsh at 1. Recently, former Governor Mark Sanford got involved as well, and he's not doing well either. So this is just to kind of show that there is some polling going on, but President Trump's going to win by a landslide. So the next we're going to go over, there are some Democrat presidential polls that came out recently. So we'll go over some of these. The poll this past Thursday was actually the debate. I don't really, and so we don't have any post-debate polls, but I don't think there's going to be a huge kind of moving within the Democrat Party in the primary. I don't think that anybody really is going to improve. I mean, Beto O'Rourke might, because he came so strong against guns, and that might help him within the Democratic primary. And it would probably hurt him in a general election, of course, but in a Democratic primary, it may help. But so this recent poll came from Reuters, and it showed Biden at 22, Sanders at 16, Warren at 11. And then it showed Harris at 4, Buttigieg at 4, Yang at 3, O'Rourke at 1, Booker at 2. Then almost everybody else is 1 or less. Then the Economist showed a tied race between Warren and Joe Biden, and Bernie Sanders at 16, Senator Harris at 6, Mayor Pete Buttigieg at 6 as well, Andrew Yang at 2, Booker at 2, and everybody else 1 or below. And then the Hill Harris came out with Joe Biden in first at 27, Bernie Sanders in second at 15, Senator Elizabeth Warren at 12, Senator Harris at 7, Mayor Pete Buttigieg at 4, Andrew Yang at 5, Beto O'Rourke at 3, Cory Booker at 3, Julian Castro at 2, and everybody else at 1. Now that kind of is to have Andrew Yang so high, that is kind of an outlier. So we'll have to see. I mean, there is probably a lot of movability when you're at a lower. It's probably a more fluid race for the lower candidates. CNN came out with a poll as well, showing Joe Biden up at 24, Senator Elizabeth Warren at 18, Senator Bernie Sanders at 17, Kamala Harris at 8, Pete Buttigieg at 6, Andrew Yang at 2, Beto O'Rourke at 5, which is higher than most polls have him, Cory Booker at 2, Tulsi Gabbard at 2, and the rest are about 1 at 1. Politico in the Morning Consult also came out with a poll that showed Joe Biden at 33, Bernie Sanders at 21, Elizabeth Warren at 16, Kamala Harris at 7, Buttigieg at 5, Yang 3, O'Rourke 3, Booker 3, and everybody else below 1. And then the last one we're going to go over is the ABC News and Washington Post poll that showed Joe Biden at 29, Senator Bernie Sanders at 19, Elizabeth Warren at 18, Kamala Harris at 7, Pete Buttigieg at 4, Andrew Yang at 3, Beto O'Rourke at 3, Tulsi Gabbard at 2, and Amy Klobuchar at 2 as well. Everybody else is at 1 or below. And really what we can take away from these polls at this point in the Democrat primary, you can see the average up top here, right across here. But this kind of shows that the top 3 is Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren has been picking up a lot of steam recently. She's just been kind of slow moving. It's like the story about the little engine that could, slow and steady. And it really looks at going down on the line that she could really pose a threat to Joe Biden and will eventually surpass Bernie Sanders as well. But I would never count out Senator Bernie Sanders. He has a very fluid base. His poll numbers are all within the same ballpark. So he may not be able to get a lot of more support, but he's not going to lose his support. His diehards are going to stay with him. Joe Biden has fallen recently from where he started at, but he's still a force and is still up a lot in some of these polls. Um, and then Buttigieg and Harris are kind of in that second middle tier right there, and they're always on the cusp. Sometimes they do better than one another. Sometimes, so they really need a state early on, I think, to really boost their chance. And if either of them could, I think it could really boost them up. Andrew Yang and Beto O'Rourke and Cory Booker, I think I would also put him a third tier and everybody else in a fourth tier. And I say that because Beto O'Rourke did very well in the Texas Senate race, and so there could be something that another viral moment that can really boost him in this primary. And he's a lot more talented of a politician, I think, than some people give him credit for. I mean, he came close to beating Ted Cruz in a very Republican state. Cory Booker as well seems like he's running this happy warrior style campaign, and he has a pretty good organization in Iowa by all reporting, so that could really help him a lot. And Andrew Yang is such an interesting candidate because he's offering fresh and new ideas, and he's definitely way out from the establishment, but from conventions as well. And his internet presence helps him a lot, and he's been slowly picking up some polling numbers as well. So it'll be interesting to see as we go forward. And I'll just take a quick look at some Iowa polls before we go to just a couple general election polls. What we have from Iowa is the last. We're going to go over this CBS one because it's the most recent one. And so it had Joe Biden at 29, Elizabeth Warren at 17, Bernie Sanders at 26, Harris at 6, Buttigieg at 7, Klobuchar at 2, Steyer at 2, Booker at 2, O'Rourke at 2, and everybody is less than 1. And this is what's important. This one kind of does follow the national one, but then there's been some other ones that don't necessarily show that. So it'll be really interesting how this shapes up. Some have Buttigieg a little higher, some of the more recent polls since then. So Buttigieg wins in Iowa, which it could move him to the front tier. So him and Harris, if either of them can outperform their polling here in Iowa, it could very well propel them into that first tier, and it could hurt Joe Biden a lot. So it'll be very interesting. And we'll go over individual state polls in a later episode as well. I just kind of wanted to give a little bit of a update on that. And then the last thing in this video we're going to go over is we're going to go over some general election polls, and we're just going to go over two, one from September 11th and one from September 10th. Oh, and another one. There's one from September 4th as well. So the September 11th poll showed all candidates beating President Trump, all the Democrats that they polled, and that was Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Kamala Harris and Mayor Pete Buttigieg. And this is ABC News and a Washington Post poll. It's very early on, and so a lot can change. But it just shows that Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders have the two best chances of beating Trump, and Warren and Harris are the same, and Buttigieg is a little below. And when we continue looking at some of these polling, it does show that Buttigieg does not perform as well, and in certain states, Elizabeth Warren does not perform that well either, or Kamala Harris comparatively. Now, this next one is a New Hampshire poll, and it showed Joe Biden beating President Trump by 10, Bernie Sanders by 5, Elizabeth Warren losing by 2, Kamala Harris winning by 2, and Andrew Yang winning by 8. So I think this really shows that Andrew Yang may be a little bit more, if he could get to a general election, may be a little more dangerous than people at first would think that he would be. But it just shows him and Joe Biden doing very well in New Hampshire. But it shows that Bernie Sanders is doing a little better, but that it would put New Hampshire in play. And President Trump only lost New Hampshire by 0.3%, so it's a very close race. Um, but it shows Elizabeth Warren losing and Kamala Harris only winning by 2. So I think that really spells some problems for them. And it shows that it doesn't really matter how well you're doing at the national level. You have to do good on the state level to win the Electoral College. And maybe Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris aren't the best 2 options for the Democrats. But if you're a Republican, you probably want one of them. And you'll see a theme with this in this next poll as well. There's also, so there's one we'll go over from September 4th, and we'll also go over the one from September 3rd. September 4th is a Marquette poll, and it's from Wisconsin, and it's showing Joe Biden beating President Trump by 9, Bernie Sanders is beating President Trump by 4, and Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris are tied. If you are Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren, this has to look bad that you are not doing well against President Trump in a state as important as Wisconsin. And it shows that Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden have some sort of appeal to these middle class voters, and not just the that President Trump also appeals to. So really interesting. And as you can see, I mean, this isn't great news for either Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren. As I said earlier, there's a long way to go. And then there's another from September 3rd was another national poll. And like I said, you can't take as much stock in these national polls. It shows Joe Biden winning by 12, Elizabeth Warren winning by 3, Bernie Sanders by 4, and Kamala Harris by 3. So what this shows is that Joe Biden consistently is the best candidate for the Democrats to put up, but that in most polls, Bernie Sanders is doing well as well, but that Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren are not doing as well, especially on the state-by-state polls. And I think the Democrats right now, one of the big things that they really want is somebody who can beat President Trump. So this looks very bad for Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris in that case. And this could help hurt them in the presidential primary, actually, if these polls keep coming up that they're not beating President Trump in these key states. So that's all I have for today, guys. I'm going to put up a couple more videos this week, so just hit that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for tuning in.